Take 3.
Okay. Welcome guys to the chat show brought to you by MotoZA South African Renaissance, fueled by Weather Garage and empowered by Liqui Moly. Your hosts today and always would be Ziggy Brodalka and then Matt Gildenhuys. Casty Racing is also one of our partners, and Matt will elaborate on that.
Yeah, so Casty Racing's a newly built team. We've been going for about 7 months now. The owner of the team, I'll just be heading it up on the coaching side and just general manager. But the boss itself, it's his 2 kids that are racing in the 125 class and 85cc Pro Mini. The one on the 125 is injured for this weekend, so I'm going to be filling in his spot for a little bit.
Yes.
But it's just for this weekend. But yeah, it should be interesting to figure out what's going to happen behind the gates since 2011. That was the last time, so
that's a while, eh?
Yeah, some time.
And Casty Racing, or Casty, is you also do training?
So we base ourselves in Cape Town. That's obviously where we're from. But the training side, it's just mainly for the team riders itself, and then there's 1 or 2 odds and sods that join me. I'm not purely based into the training. We're more on the coating side of things, the Cerakoting side.
Yes.
So that's what we're doing on performance parts, bike parts, anything with regards to cars, any sort of motorsport. The Cerakoting comes in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. And actually, this today's show, episode 3.
Yes.
We would like to introduce the student of the sport, Tyson Engelbrecht. So welcome, Tyson.
Hey, thank you for having me. And student of the sport, self-proclaimed.
Yes.
Nice.
My first love ever is motocross. I've always taken great pride in being on top of the game. Yeah, you know, knowing what's happening, who's talking to who, and just all around just living the motocross life.
That's right. And will you tell or explain the viewers where we actually are at today?
Yeah, no, you guys are my hometown. Welcome to Bloemfontein Off-Road Club. I happen to personally think, non-biased, that it's one of the better tracks in South Africa.
Oh, for sure.
I think we do put on a good show. We put in a lot of effort over here.
100%.
Got good soil. Yeah, the team that runs the club over here and the track, they put in a tremendous effort each and every year just to deliver the best race possible to the riders.
And you do, and you and your dad, you guys still very actively build the track and stuff.
Yeah, I actually resigned beginning of the year. I said I was done. I've been building this track since I was about 15.
Okay.
Oh,
so
wow.
a good 16, 17 years that I did it. So I thought it may be time for someone else to start doing it. It's a bit of a thankless job most of the time in the sun and so on. And they roped me in somehow again. So a few months ago they asked for a redesign. Came in, spent 3 days here, redesigned the track. I think it's the biggest change the circuit has seen in maybe the last 10 years. So we're quite excited about that. And just helped them get it ready for this race. I wasn't here full time. We have quite an amazing team on the ground running things over here, and I just gave my input on what needs to change, what needs to move where, and what to focus on.
Yes. And I believe your dad, you gave instructions, and Anton would do exactly otherwise.
The exact opposite. I should never leave him alone with a front end loader again.
Is it?
No, my dad did it basically before I did. So
yes, of course.
I learned from him, and obviously just seeing what's happening in Europe, America, having raced some of those circuits and so on. I always just gave an extra personal touch to it. I feel if you ride as well, you have a better feeling for what you should probably do on the track. And it didn't always work out. Mistakes were made. I mean, as with anything, it's a very difficult thing to get 100% right. But yeah, I think at this point I can do relatively well with designing a track. Yeah.
Okay.
You know what I like about this track? Just a little input. I obviously walked it earlier. What I like about this track, so the top section where 7th Heaven was back in the day, I don't know if you still call it that?
Yeah, it's still there.
Okay,
Yeah.
so when I was still racing, when 7th Heaven was the opposite way.
Correct.
Like a semi-step down. But what I like about this track now, on 7th Heaven's side, the whole section's pretty tight and it's going to take a little bit of tricky little moves, you know what I mean? It seems like it will get 1 or 2 lines. I don't know if it does produce more, but that side seems nice and tight and technical, and the opposite end of the track is super fast and flowing, which is cool. It gives it a mix.
Yeah, we put in a few extra little obstacles entering the corners just to promote some more diverse line choice.
Yeah.
The reason we actually slow down the track a bit in the middle is because Bloemfontein, probably for the last 10 plus years, was a predominantly very fast track.
Okay.
And no matter
You said you actually cut down 10 seconds on the.
We gained about 10 seconds.
Well, gained.
I wouldn't say much more track distance than what it was, but by just adding some more
switchbacks.
corners and things like that. And it promotes good ruts over there, especially for our riders. Yeah, we don't get much ruts here because the soil, especially on race day, stays so soft. And it just takes one guy to come and do it wrong and the whole line is blown out. It's not like a Gauteng track. It will generally make a hard, sticky rut, and that rut is there for the day. So generally free state riders tend to battle a bit more in those conditions because we don't get to practice it too much. But the last 2 months we've seen there some good ruts have been forming. A little bit more slick in that area just due to the nature of the soil. But I think at the end of the day it will just create a more diverse track.
No, but it's beautiful. Whatever you've done there, it's just by walking it's amazing.
Really.
Thank you very much.
It wasn't exactly the same for the pre-national. I hear the Oaks had some 50 meters up air time.
Oh, where's that?
7th Heaven.
I saw 1 or 2 pictures on Facebook itself. I think BORC themselves posted it, and I saw 1 or 2 of the 85s. The air time they were getting was nice.
Yeah,
it looked pretty.
My dad, he takes pride in having the biggest and the most gnarliest jumps sometimes. Which is where Bloemfontein probably got its nickname the Wild West from back in the day. My dad really likes big jumps, so do I actually, but as I get older and so on, I tend to start focusing more on rider safety and, you know, catering more for your weekend guy that comes and rides. You know, safer for him, better for him. Not as intimidating, because we obviously want to grow the sport here in the Free State, and I think in the Free State we're doing quite well. Membership numbers are looking good. We got a lot of guys riding on weekends.
How does the entry look on a normal regional or local?
Regional, about 100.
That's
not
brilliant.
bad.
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
It's pretty good. I mean, I could be out 10 or whatever, guys.
Yeah, but still, those numbers are relatively good.
Yeah, so we do well, and we're well supported. So I think all in all, a good balance of circuit, a good balance of people over here, and I think Bloemfontein Off-Road Club is in a good position member-wise.
I would say it's a healthy 100's good.
That's amazing. Sometimes at Zone 7 in Cape Town, obviously also one of the nicest tracks on the circuit.
I love that track.
As well. But yeah, definitely one of the better ones out of the, I would say Joburg's not my, when I used to race, Joburg was never my skill set. That hard pack I struggled with quite a bit. But I know Bloem doesn't get blue groove, right?
It might be a little bit in that new middle section we were speaking about earlier.
Okay.
Not a crazy blue groove, I would say, like Johannesburg.
Yeah, that gets crazy.
I also used to battle quite a lot there because it was not something I really practiced.
Yeah.
Whereas the local guys there, they just thrive in those conditions.
100%.
And you wondering, how are you going so fast? Your dad is wondering how they're going so fast. And
well, it's because they know.
Yeah, they're really, really good in those conditions.
And they don't have one track. They've got a selection of how many now?
They got plenty.
No, there's plenty of tracks.
And all of them seem to always be the same type of swell composition as well.
Yeah. No, I've always enjoyed Bloem. Like I said, the last time I raced here properly was when I was still with not Portable Shade Honda. Wow. It was, how can I forget now?
No, it was Portable Shade.
Portable Shade was 2010.
Yeah.
Before that, Bad Boy Honda.
Yeah, before that was Bad Boy Honda.
Yeah.
And everyone moved that Portable Shade Honda.
Yeah.
But there was still 2011.
Race Nation was who I was with in 2009.
Yes,
Race Nation
right.
Honda.
William Oosthuizen's dad and what's his Bernie, or I can't remember now.
Yeah, but Race Nation was who I was with in 2009. That was the last time I raced here competitively, and I had a brilliant day here. I thought I would come to this track like had a little bit of a Joburg mindset, thinking it was going to be super hard pack and whatever the case. But I came here and ended up going 1-1 in 09, so it was beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's just not a bad spot to be in.
No, definitely
no,
not.
It's not horrible.
No, after qualifying, I came back. My dad also scratched his hand. He was like, okay, you qualified first. We thought we were going to battle, yeah. So I was like, well, the race hasn't even started. That was just qualifying. That was just one hot lap. So let's see what happens in the race. Ended up coming 1-1. It was beautiful. Yeah, like
Sure.
I said, I enjoyed it. So.
And now I actually found out, because I've been asking around, how much the annual event, and Tyson actually corrected me, North versus South. This is the 10th year.
10th year.
It's a 10th.
I would say 10th year, because I remember this year. It was our race, the first one, I think, on a Kawasaki. It was 2013, if I'm not mistaken.
So let's dub it the 10th annual
Yeah, I've never done one. Never been to one.
Interprovincial North versus South, and there's 258 entries the last I checked.
Yeah.
Which is very good. Not the 320s and 360s that prior years, but all those kind of bikes, that will affect this track quite a much different than a national with 120, 60 riders, don't you think?
Yeah, the track's going to break down a bit differently. If you check the composition, all your big classes tend to be your smaller classes and so on. And they will obviously, at the end of the day, dictate the line selections and the line development in the track and where the braking bumps start. I see the MX1, MX2 classes are a bit light this year.
Yes, no.
Maybe it's just teams and so on, or people just at this time of the year just a little bit over racing, after putting in, those guys especially, just putting in that tremendous effort throughout the year.
And having that little break before the final out in Joburg.
That's right.
Yeah. Now, I think there's still some things on the line. I could be mistaken. I'm a bit disjointed with South African motocross this year. I haven't focused on it too much, partially because I didn't race this year, and just had some other things going on. So, maybe some championships still on the line and so on. I know the 85, one of the kids I coach, Blade Tilly, he's about 4 points out of the championship, so I know that's a big race for them. So, I think it would have been nice to see some of the top guys over here. I mean, it's always special to see someone like Cameron DeRoe or someone just ripping up this track.
Yeah.
But we were talking about it, so they're obviously preparing to go to destinations.
Yes.
And Jesse and Camden is there. And then the 1 to 5 riders is there, though, the SA champ. Luke Grundy, but it would be the smaller classes that still has a deciding factor in Joburg.
Did you see the 1 to 5 numbers?
Yeah,
very good.
Yeah, I think it's 30 something. Yeah, 30 something, which is impressive.
A lot of like the 1 to 5s, 85s, impressive. Even the women.
Yes, 20 entries for ladies.
If you look at the MSA national list, what is the entry there for women's? It's probably 7 to 8 riders, if lucky enough. You know what I mean? Now, what is it? 20? How much?
20
on the dot.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Well, it's a once-a-year event, and it's definitely different pricing.
Where are they coming from?
Yeah, mostly Joburg, Inland Series, WAMZA.
So they do the WAMZA, so they're based with WAMZA.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Kayla Roth is not here, Leah Haggart, none of the actual national riders is here.
Besides two, pretty much, eh? It's the DeLima sisters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're just getting better and better. Every time you see them, they're just getting faster and faster.
Yeah, it's cool.
I mean, they rode with me in the vets class last year. Every race you're just wondering, one of them going to pip you one of these days. And I think it's sooner rather than later. Maybe that's why I stopped riding. Who knows?
Nah,
the ladies.
All jokes aside. I just had some health issues and so on this year that I had to put hiatus on riding motorcycles for a while and just focus on my health.
But I believe you are now 100% and...
Yes. Still have some side effects from what happened. My body, obviously, that time off and not doing much has really taken a hammering. So I've started training a little bit now again in the gym and that, just to try and get back into a semblance of shape. Just to be better, because I always believe, a healthy body, healthy mind, you tend to be better at life that way because you have more confidence and so on. So I just want to get to a level again where I'm comfortable with myself, comfortable with my body, and it's working well for me. I still hopefully have a bunch of years to still live, so I've got to look after myself.
But besides living, are we going to see riding?
I am busy looking into procuring a motorcycle.
Procuring,
but it is.
What a nice word.
It is a big word.
But this is what we're actually waiting for.
Yes.
We understand your health, it's a good part.
Yeah.
And we're glad you're healthy and so on, but now the riding part.
I will ride. Whether it's racing, I don't think so. Just
Ever again?
No, there are also 1 or 2 races I still want to do that on my bucket list.
Yeah.
The last few years I've wanted to go do World Vet Champs at Glen Helen.
Okay.
But every time, it's always the end of the year, and by this time of the year, I remember the last few years of racing, I didn't even feel like riding anymore. So it was, and with
But
work
was that a
and everything.
mindset though?
Yeah, it's just what I've done. I raced, last year was my 30th year of racing, you know. I
Yeah.
think you get a bit over it.
Yeah.
So maybe
But it's a
this-
mindset thing. Sometimes it just takes a little spark just to get it going.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. So I still I still want to go do Vet World Champs. Next year I am 35, so I get to go into the next age group. And from guys I've spoken to, they say you must always, the first year of your age group, try and go then. It just gives you the best advantage over there and so on. So that is still a goal of mine. Whether I do it or not will all just be based on, you know, how I feel, you know, when I start riding a little bit again and so on. But as of now, no national racing here. Probably not even regional racing. I think it's just more riding, just something I've always done and I'm really passionate about, and always good for your mental health and so on, to just be do a sport that you like.
By yourself as well.
Yeah, I love it. Now and then I will one of my riders, I'll take his 250F and still go ride a little bit. I probably have a lap and a half in me, a very good lap and a half, and then I'm really tired after that. But that's probably the greatest feeling. I don't think you can describe it to anyone if they've never ridden a motorcycle, how fantastic it is.
No, it's amazing. Like now I said, I'm doing this race just for the funsies, but I'm pretty much on the same boat. A good lap and a half, a good one.
One lap wonders.
So, and I think I'm going to struggle a little bit being on a 125 against 450s on this track, especially the fastest section.
Are they going to put you guys? Oh yeah,
no,
because it's
but
the class.
most of the people in the class that I'm going to ride are on 450s.
Yes,
I stand to be corrected, but that's
250, 450s.
yeah. I think I'm going to be the only Okie on a little two smoker.
Well, then you have to ring it.
Yeah, but still can only ring it as we were speaking about now for a lap and a half. But it's fine.
Yeah.
It's for the fun. Like Tyson said, no one can really explain. And I'm on the same boat now that I can elaborate on what you're saying with how good it actually feels.
Oh, it's amazing.
So before this event, now it's obviously the race is tomorrow, but before this event I rode twice. And at Zone 7 I could do like a good 3 laps, but at probably 60% pace. If I put in 100, it is a lap and a half.
Correct.
That's it. But it's cool. It's good for the soul there. It's very good for the soul.
That's the
and the motorsport will stay in our blood for how long? Forever. Yeah. It's never going to disappear.
No,
well,
I think I've just done it so long. I don't think it can go anywhere.
No.
I can't leave it alone. I mean, I tried. I told my wife. I told my mom, dad. I'm like, I'm done. I'm out. I need to, you know, focus on other things. Maybe find some new things to do. Did that for a few months, and well, guess what? I'm back again, you know.
Good.
I'm so happy he didn't go to the mountain bike side of things. I'm so tired of Oaks going, oh, I'm done with motocross. Now you see him downhilling. It's like, it's the same bloody thing, man.
Similar rush.
Oh, well, what do you feel about golf then? I mean, it feels like every motocross rider plays golf as well.
No,
That's true. Eh?
No, there's a couple of them that went that
Even
way.
the newbies that get into the motocross, obviously not the 50, 65, but some of the people that are like on 125s and above, they just get into motocross. They're now evolving in the sport. They watch 1 or 2 like pro races, and they see the behind the scenes of your Jet Lawrence and so on doing a little bit of a golf situation. They all want to get into golf. Now they're pro golfers. I don't understand.
Well, Nicholas Adams.
Okay, that's an understand. Michael Koch. They are brilliant at golf.
Correct.
So I don't know.
And tell me,
I've never got into it.
Oh Lord, we have a. Sorry, it's throwing me off, this man.
That's all right.
Okay, so with all your 30 years of experience, you obviously have training schools here in Bloemfontein, at BORC, or you are training people?
I train them if they ask. I don't actively go out and look for riders or approach them at the track.
I'm exactly the same.
I work a 8 to 5 job. It's a very high demanding job. Anyone in construction and things like that will tell you the same thing. So my engineering job takes first precedence because that's what supports, that's what buys the groceries and pays the rent every month. So if someone really asks me and I can see a bit of potential in the kid and I see the kid really wants to, I'll take them on. I try where I can help out in the week, but I'm mostly just doing it on weekends now. Just because I put myself under too much pressure to get to them, especially in the winter time when we have really short afternoons to get to them, and I was just putting myself under too much strain doing that. But I have a few promising kids still. One of my previous riders who was part of that group, that 85 group of last year. They're about the same age. The Jordan, Neil, and Trey Cox. Well, beyond deploy, he bought a bike now
I
again.
saw, huh?
Yeah. And he's riding again, and
it's 250 though, huh?
yeah, he's on a 250F already because he's still got to concentrate on his school sports next year. He's at grade college. He plays first team hockey already in his grade 11 year, and grade 12 next year is a big year for him. So that is their main focus at the moment, and I think he just wants to have something to do after that. He's always been passionate about the riding, and he's always wanted to come back to riding. So I think eventually they got things figured out, and everyone was comfortable for him to come back and ride again, and he's got a big smile on his face. I'm excited about that. I've got some riders in 125s and MX2 tomorrow, some 65s and so on, but not too many riders.
But you're still
I don't
a busy
overload
man.
myself.
You're still a busy man on the race days.
I'm more out there than sitting here. So
But that's cool. Still actively involved.
Yes.
Not just riding yourself. You're still actively involved. You're still on the track. Race days, you're still there.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, look, I enjoy teaching the kids the things I wish I did. Maybe focused on more, not do as I do as I say type of thing. I'm trying to just build better, safer riders at the end of the day. That they can prolong their careers. I mean, I don't want them to be like me one day. I mean, what am I sitting here? I think we stopped counting broken bones at 33 or something like that.
You had a couple of sessions, I must be honest.
No, I've my body's a bit tattered and so on. So I don't wish that upon anyone. So I'm just trying to teach them how to be better, safer motocross riders.
Okay.
Yeah. No,
Sure.
that's a good thing. Also, the motocross has changed. Last night at the accommodation we're staying at, luckily enough, they got Netflix and YouTube, because a lot of the accommodation when you're traveling doesn't have that kind of stuff. So I was watching on YouTube last night some old racing of James Stewart back in 08. I was watching Glen Helen. And, to figure out what the difference between then was, back in those years, and now like the likes of Jet Lawrence and Hunter Lawrence, what the difference is. And that Randy Lawrence on, like I was talking to you earlier about it, Randy Lawrence, he was talking on Jesse Tales. He says how Stefan Evert's 10 world titles, in those 10 world titles, he probably sat the same amount of James Stewart did in one race.
Really?
Yeah, I could probably agree with that.
Yeah. So James Stewart, one heat, sat more than Everts did in his 10 years, these 10 championships, you know what I mean?
So
it's just light on the pegs. Maybe you can elaborate more of what you see on your side.
Riding has definitely changed.
Completely.
These days, the big focus seems to be in the last 5 years, maybe, is all about technique. Before that, it was probably fitness. You have to, that was Ricky. Carmichael brought that in. The harder you work, the more successful you'll be. That was to the point. So I think now it's technique. And I feel the next wave that will come will probably be more mental-sided.
That's a big thing already, eh?
Yeah.
A lot of people are playing with that. But now you watch back in the day, like I was saying, in 08, the guy comes into the pits. I can't remember. Josh Hill comes into the pits, gets his tire kicked straight, off he goes again out of the pit straight. What happens nowadays? Like you get someone that comes in and then it's a wheel off, it's a wheel change, it's fiddle with suspension. There's always something behind the scenes now. Is it bikes or is it the people? What is it? What do you think?
Everyone talks about setup these days. How I feel about it is you can probably get your bike 70% of the way there. No bike is ever going to be perfect anywhere.
No, sure.
You just have to get it good enough around the circuit that you are pretty comfortable, and you just have to take it the rest of the way and adapt. I think sometimes people chase setup way too much, focusing on suspension and things like that.
It also sets their mind off.
Correct. So I think, a lot of mechanics and that can attest to that, and they can only get your bike so far. It's up to you to carry it the rest of the way. No bike is perfect. The bikes are getting bloody good though, and I think these 450s are really fast motorcycles.
No, for sure.
I think they're, especially with the way chassis and things are going, I feel like chassis are just getting stiffer and stiffer because of the American market, which happens to be most of these motorcycle manufacturers, your OEMs, tends to be their biggest market, in my opinion.
Yes, no, sure.
And their primary focus is what? A supercross, all right? And what does supercross need? It needs a stiffer chassis to be able to handle, and sharper turning motorcycle to be able to handle those tracks better, especially because of their production rules and so on, since they've had since I think it's 1986, the production rule. So you can't change too much on the frame, length of swing arms and things like that, whereas before that you could have basically done whatever you want. So
Yeah, not like the
the
Europeans.
GPs, they can still got full factory bikes. I mean, if you look at Tim Geis's bike versus what Jet Lawrence is riding, I bet
It's
you
a
their
completely
frames
different,
are so different.
Mm.
I think that Honda's a bit more stretched out, more stable and so
Yeah.
on. Maybe a more compliant chassis as well too. Because if you look how he rides, I don't think he suffers any of the typical nuances that other Honda riders tend to suffer with, which is a harsher feeling chassis.
It's interesting you say that. But like, for example, with Jet, Hunter and Sexton being on the same brand, do you think their setups are different?
They are different.
But as far as chassis?
Yeah, chassis is different. I know Chase was riding with a brace chassis in outdoors, whereas Jet, yes, he was riding with a brace chassis, and Chase was riding on a different chassis. But also Chase has got a harder suspension and a harder hitting motor.
No, he loves it stiff.
And Jet's got a softer, more compliant chassis.
It falls in with his style,
Yeah,
though.
that's the way he rides.
Yeah.
And I mean, before Jet came along this year into 450s, because you can't really see that type of riding technique and style in 250s.
No.
Because there you just have to hammer the hell out of it. So I think now we've seen him on the 450s, everyone's going to try and emulate what he's doing. But I mean, before this year, Chase last year looked a million times softer on a bike than what Eli Tomac was looking at. You know, we thought Chase was holy hell. He's so soft and gentle and hopping the bumps, and Jet came along and he just took it to another level. And is it maybe that the pinnacle of what we're going to see in this new riding technique era? Maybe.
I think there can be more.
There's always more. And you know what? There's always someone younger and better on their way.
Of course.
It's the nature of the sport. You can only stay top dog for so long.
Yeah.
There are some promising young guys coming up. I mean, if you look at Hayden Deegan, I think if you see him on a 450, he'll have a different riding technique to what he has now, because he has to ride the bike like that to have the speed necessary to win. Hunter sort of makes it look easy. But
Hunter's a lot taller as well, so I think the way Hunter rides, it also accommodates his length, because he's also doing similar to what Jet's doing, hopping around, jumping over braking bumps, finding a rhythm where people don't have a rhythm. And I think when he goes to 450s, I think he's going to give Jet a run for his money. Hunter, there's going to be a little bit of brother rivalry. But I agree with exactly what Tyson's saying. When Deegan gets to 450, he's going to have to. Well, he won't have to. He will naturally change his style completely, because it's more of a bike.
I think he has it in him. I know Rhino was his riding coach for a good few years, and Rhino's been on it a long time to be soft on the bike. You know, to be supple with your feet management and everything like that.
Oh, he's a foot specialist. You see, even says like when he goes and runs in the hills, no shoes. The only thing he will put on is those finger shoes.
Yes.
Have you seen those finger shoes? Because he says like natural contact is the main part of it.
It's a very strange guy, that I must be honest, but I like.
Not a lot of people enjoy him,
but he's got very interesting ideas. No, sure,
it's amazing.
I like what he's saying. He was doing the ice baths and things like that way before. Now it's mainstream. Everyone seems to be doing it. I mean, I feel like I should be doing it, you know, just to keep up. But
I'm not going to do it with
no. Maybe the metal screws and that will start freezing up and breaking and things like that. We can't risk it.
We're going to have to help you out.
Or maybe it pulls everything nicely into joint, and it's like...
You're going to come out looking like a question mark shaped in an L shape.
Probably, probably.
Someone please defrost me.
Yeah. My wife always makes a joke, I'm probably worth more dead than alive with all the metal I have inside of me.
Sure.
But that's true, because it's titanium and it's worth a lot.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so I think Rhino's done an amazing thing in the sport. He's brought technique to the forefront, and you see it even in South African riders. This year, for a few races I've probably seen more people riding on their toes and being softer on the motorcycle and in their braking zones, and you know, straightening out their backs a little bit more and pushing their bums out, you know, unlocking those hips a little bit. It's the most I've ever seen anyone anywhere, and these kids are just picking it up like that, keeping their feet up in the corners through the... I'm like, dude, I tried that last year. You know how hard it is, and these kids are just like knocking it out like 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
It's like it's not even an issue for them.
And I see the toes are definitely twitching.
Because they're coming in. There's no more duck feet, elbows down, haunching over, like you say. Bum out, legs straight.
I mean, you watch Eli Tomac, we think he bulldogs and everything like that, but look at his feet also. also the whole time. His body tends to be in the right position most of the time, but the difference between him and Jet is Jet will try and finesse his way around a circuit, and Eli will try and hit everything as hard and as fast as he possibly can for as long as he can. It's his style,
and it works.
It works for him.
It works well.
100%.
There's no 100% wrong and right way to do it. I think just give yourself the best fighting chance with your capabilities to be able to do it.
100% agree. You can't take. There's no one that will be able to now kind of take Eli Tomac, for example, when it was, what, 2 years ago when he was with Sexton, or last year, before his injury in the Supercross. No one can take a Eli Tomac and now try and change his riding style.
No.
It's never going to work.
Anderson was sitting on the podium when he actually got on there, and he said, well, it's good and well, but you can't make a 28-year-old now go change.
No, you can never change someone like Eli Tomac. And the likes of Jet Lawrence as well. He's still young. He's still young at heart as well, young at mind. But you won't be able to change his riding style. It's what he's adapted to. It's what he knows.
Yes.
And it works damn well for them. So there's no one going to be that guy.
No, for sure.
Evans waterless coolant is the solution to boiling over. So you can push your vehicle like this, and this, and this, without fearing the temperature gauge. Evans waterless coolant. Defeat the heat.
All right, guys, we just broke away for an ad break, and now I just wanted to pose that question again to Tyson, or not question, actually just say...
Elaborate on it.
Elaborate. Shannon de Blanche had a fantastic thing to say about you. As I said, he said, that young man, and I was like, okay, what's coming? He says, no. He was the only kid, I think it was a KX60 then, no?
Yeah, probably would have been a KX60.
Which cleared 7th heaven, and then he proceeded to say there was no 85s, nothing, it was for big bikes. But Tyson was clapping it in those days. And that's obviously many years ago, but...
Yeah.
Home track advantage.
No, I don't think so much. It was more, I really like jumping, and my dad was just like a sort of no-die approach to motocross. You either give it everything you have, you work your butt off, and you have to do some things sometimes that you're not comfortable with in order to succeed. We had a plan for myself to hopefully be able to do this for a living one day.
Okay.
I started crashing a bit way too much there, somewhere in the middle. So, you know, you miss 6 weeks here, you miss 12 weeks there, you know, everyone starts catching up and passing you. And yeah, with that trend that I had going there, especially from about 10 years old till about 18, it was just, it wreaked havoc. So, no, I was never scared to jump. My dad would always say, nah, it's makeable. Let's go do it. And sometimes I didn't have a choice, you know, he just said, well, you have to do it. Or he would tell me, hey,
pressure.
That guy you're racing against, whether it was Sashin or Deer or who else would I have raced against?
Richie?
No, Richie was always one class ahead of me. Richard Cape or Devin Jardim or one of those guys, I mean, he would remember them.
Yeah.
He would say to me, hey, that double, I saw them jump it. I think you should go do it.
But they didn't.
No, and after I jumped it and I see them, hey, you're also jumping the double. They say, hell no.
What a way. That's the way to go, bro.
That's a mental mind game.
No.
Yeah,
big ups to your dad.
No, it was scary. I mean, oftentimes it didn't work out as to plan. But I think we were talking last night, most of your big crashes never really came on the big jumps or the super difficult stuff. It always came on the things that were very rudimentary to do, you know, whether it was some quick switchback or some corner, a long sweeping corner you had to accelerate, or some stupid little jump you had to brake for. I mean, I've probably fallen harder doing those things than on big scary jumps or some technical section.
I had a horrible crash here in, I don't even know the year, roughly around 2006. Broke my femur and hip on when it was 7th heaven.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what happened, but what they say, obviously, when they told me in hospital, is there was a back marker. It was myself leading, Diago behind, and then Frericks.
Oh, yeah?
And I came around, at that time there was a little S-bend. You must remember this. There was a slight S-bend heading up towards 7th heaven, and there was one set racing line for the 85s, because that's the main way you could go around the S-bend, as well as hitting the face full taps, because then it was proper send on the 85s back then. And back marker went into the racing line, and I tried to switch it up and jump on the opposite side of the face. And apparently that back marker also, I kind of realized at that time, oh flip, I'm in the racing line, and then he did like a little sweep on the top of the jump and got into the line that I was jumping, and I connected the bars. And then you'll also remember that the landing wasn't just a landing and then back onto a straight. It was into a dip and then back out over a little step up out of it.
Oh yes, yeah, I remember that way. It was when you, opposite way of what it's going now.
Yes,
eh?
it was coming towards us. Yeah.
So it had a really big launch.
Yeah.
It's essentially a step down. So you
Yes.
had a really big launch. It would go down and then go out onto the plateau, and then you land in the hole, sort of where your launch is now.
Yes.
That was a scary jump.
Yeah. I think in that year, I stand to be correct. It must be about 06, 07.
Yeah.
Yeah, roughly around then.
It was about then.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was myself, Frerix, Diaga, and Gilly, and Bryn High that was jumping it at that time. Everyone else wasn't doing it.
Well, you
was
didn't
just
have much of a choice if you wanted to probably win at that stage.
Your dad's theory.
Yeah, exactly.
You had to do it. And it was my dad's mindset as well. Like, yeah, we got into a lot of tussles with regards to jumps.
Yeah, I think it's in our, well, I say our day, like the racing in the 90s, maybe early 2000s, the dads were really tough.
No, they were.
Yeah.
I sometimes say to my kids, I'm like, are they throw tantrums or, don't want to do certain things, or
Yeah.
they don't want to do this because it's hard. I'm like, when I had to go do the stuff, I had to do it. I mean, firstly, because I wanted to win. You say you want to win, but are you talking to me right now? It doesn't sound like you want to win. And your dad sometimes just didn't give you a choice. You had to, be a certain level, do certain things to keep up with the competition. Because I feel it was more, the dads pushed the other kid, and so then your dad had to push you, just to keep up. So it was a different time. It was a different time of racing that, I think. And anyone that raced in the 80s will tell you how bad they had it. I mean, I've heard some stories and things like that. I'm like, oh boy, I'm glad my dad wasn't like that. I bet you some of the kids now, when I tell them stories, they're like, oh boy,
Yeah,
but
thinking that's what it's going to be like, but it has changed completely.
It is what it is, I mean, our parents, I believe they did the best for us that they thought, that they could offer. I mean, they thought that was the best way to do it, and sometimes it works, sometimes it didn't. I mean, South Africa has produced some magnificent motocross riders.
No,
over the
definitely.
years. And coming out of, from what I've heard, similar types of circumstances. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. And I'm thinking the whole time as we're talking, chatting to your dad and your mum. Do you want to just tell us that story, how you guys actually went to Mini O's? You and Kieran Fitzgerald, well, you guys used to. You'll love this. This is very good.
I don't even know what Mini O's was at that time.
Well, the Mini Olympics or whatever they called it.
Yeah, it was World Mini Grand Prix.
Okay.
I see they've started it up again. They're racing in... I'll have to come back to you on the track name, but I think it started up this year again for the first time in a couple of years. Not in Vegas anymore. So how it came about was I was playing outside. My dad sticks his head out the window and says, hey, you want to go race in America? Obviously, Kieran Fitzgerald's dad had phoned him and said, hey, Anton, let's go do this thing. And I was pretty good at the time. I was leading the SA Championship in 65s, although I wish we would have gone on the 85 because I was a bit too big for that bike, and it was the new KTM 65. They were a bit soft and so on, they broke quite a lot. But it is what it is. So we raced a Cape Town National, put the bike into a suitcase, and
they literally split the bikes, put it in suitcases,
Correct.
motor in one, and the family shared.
What was the Cape Town National?
It was after the Cape Town
Kalani?
National. It would have been there at opposite where the Zone 7 is now. What was that
the
track?
old Claybrick.
Yes,
Claybrick.
Yes, old Claybrick. Yeah. So
Did you race with Craig Menards?
He was Noel was 1 year older than me.
Okay.
Craig Menards was also a little bit older, but I know them.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So we packed up the bikes. I don't know if you remember, junior motocross was over 2 days, and senior motocross was always over 1 day. So
Yes.
senior motocross would race sort of on the same weekend.
That's
They'd
right.
race on the main track on Saturday, and we had our racing on
Sundays, yes.
So I know Kerem them did the same as us, stripped the bike, put it into suitcases and so on. My dad did it on
That's so
Sunday
cool.
night, and I think we boarded Sunday night sometime and we landed in New York first, and then did the cross-country travel, landed in LA, got on a bus from LA to Vegas. We rented a car, and we did our thing over there. We were quite lucky enough there was a guy from, I think it was from Zimbabwe, He was also there. What was his name? I remember his dad's name. I think it was Taggart. I think his dad's name. And anyway, he hooked up with some American guy over there with an RV.
Okay.
So we essentially all just put it out of this RV over there. I remember giving the kid like Milo bars and biltong that my mother packed in, and he was a bit of a big boy, so he was just chomping on chocolates and biltong like it was no one's business. So that was a good time. I mean, I got to race against guys. I definitely remember Mike Lessie, Zach Osborne was there. Ryan Villapoto might have been there. I don't think he was that great yet. Ryan Villapoto only rose a lot later. I got to see James Stewart ride a Super Mini and a 125.
All right.
Awesome.
Yeah, Davey Millsaps, Kyle Partridge was a hot amateur. I met Casey Lytle over there. He was signing autographs and things like that. Met Johnny O'Mara.
Oh wow!
I still remember he organised some sunglasses and Oakleys and things like that for us there.
All right.
I got to see Pro Circuit. I wish I was a bit older, just to appreciate it a lot more.
Yeah.
I got to do some cool things like that because I was a relatively good. I was a good mini rider. Like I said, crashes started happening and things didn't work out the way we wanted them to. But I got to do some cool things.
I love the story of packing.
And results? Do you remember the results?
Yeah.
Results. I entered the stock and mod class in, I think it was the 10 to 12. I think 65 class or something like that. I can't remember the exact age of the class. And I only qualified for the mod class on a stock 65. In South Africa, you're only allowed to ride stock mini bikes at that time. So that's what we had, and that's what I used over there in the stock and the mod. I had an issue in one of the stock class qualifiers. We had a wire that was arcing against the frame, so the bike cut out halfway through the race and wouldn't start. So I missed out, I think, by like 2 positions or something on qualifying for stock class. And the main was going well. I got a relatively okay start. I was quite a big kid. And I was lying in about 5th place. And I still remember heading up to the finish, you would come through a 90. And there was like a set of whoops, a little tabletop, a straight, and you turned right, and then there was the finish line. Yeah. And I was in 5th place by that time, and I was passing, I can't remember the guy's name. Michael Lessie was just way ahead, and I think Zach Osborne was 2nd.
Still amazing to be in the class
yeah,
that they were in.
And I actually went through the whoops in a different line, similar situation to you. I went over the bars and broke my arm.
Oh wow!
100 meters from the finish line.
100 meters from actual finishing?
Yeah, from actually finishing last lap, yeah. So I had surgery in the US. I remember my dad was still panicking.
So you got the full experience?
Oh yeah.
Not just racing, you even got the hospital experience, all of it.
Oh yeah. So yeah, my wrist was displaced, looked like an S. So my dad phones my mom. He still laughs about it to this day. He phones my mom panicking, got to the hospital, and he says, they took all my money. They took it all. And he says, my mom said to him, but remember, I told you, if something happens, there's a folder with all discoveries, details, and everything in there that I am covered to go over there. So lucky he did get his money back.
All right.
2 days later, with a cast that was my arm swollen, I was at Disneyland. So at least I still got to enjoy a little bit of it.
You're not too phased though.
Nah.
Disneyland. Okay, my arm. No, don't worry about the arm. Let's go to Disneyland.
We're going to Disneyland. So yeah, it was a good experience for my dad and I. We wanted to go back the following year. Unfortunately, when we got back to SA, there was some issues in my dad's business at the time with a business partner, and things didn't go well. So, a few rough years followed that. But I know he recovered, and eventually everything balanced out as it should be. But yeah, I essentially got to miss out going another year there. Maybe go doing mini-O's at what was that old track there where mini-O still goes, as Supercross and Motocross, and maybe go do some of those. But yeah, everything happens for a reason, I believe. So.
No, but at least you experienced it. I mean, that's.
Hey, what about VMX Destinations?
Yes, I was.
VMX, I'd love to do it.
Who is the person? Do you know if there is an actual person that picks for SA?
I have absolutely no
idea.
idea.
Was just part of the team manager, if you call it.
Well, I know Neville races it every year, or whichever guys
so
over
maybe
there.
he just gathers people.
Yeah, so there's like 3 guys there that I've heard that just have a hell of a bunch of old vintage bikes. and they build them up really well. And you know, you get a bike from them and you go and race this thing. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yes.
I know Ian was also there this year.
Yeah, Topless was there. Yeah.
Yeah, he wanted to also do it a few years ago, and he actually broke his collarbone just before the event or something like that. So I'd dig to do that.
Because I think that could suit you well.
Yeah, just racing, man, and it's a lot of the guys like Zach Osborne was here this year, Ryan Villapoto and those guys. You know, guys I have raced, so it would be cool to, you know, maybe race with them again. I see Villapoto pulled out. He says he didn't feel like taking chances this year, but maybe next year.
But that track looked, is awkward the right word? I think so. Super hard back, up, downhill. It looked intense.
It does. It actually reminds me of Saint Jean d'Angely, where they're racing this year for Destinations. You know, your hard pack up and downhill.
Yes.
But British tracks are notorious for being very natural. I think MXGP sometimes, where they go to these man-built tracks inside speedways and things like that, I don't always dig that, because I mean they got so, like they had Namur, which was probably one of the coolest tracks to ever see.
That thing between the trees,
narrows and the buildings and things like that. I mean, I don't think maybe the greatest track to probably, but I mean just the experience of doing something like that. I think Europe has amazing circuits. So, you know, I hope they get to go back to some of those circuits one day. I know, obviously, development and
Matterley Vesson this weekend.
That's
right.
Yeah, Madley. I think if
that looks proper.
I think it's probably one of the favorite tracks on the MXGP roster.
And you can't go ride it throughout any other time. It's only MXGP based, eh?
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's amazing.
Awesome.
And every time you look at that track, you're just like, And no one can go, nothing can happen.
And it's so natural the way it flows and the rollers and things like that. I mean, I wish I had the resources to do something like that over here, but anyone that's built a track in SA will tell you that is an expensive endeavor.
No, for sure.
You know, you just check your front end loaders, your graders, your tippers and things like that. I mean, those sums get big really quickly. So
and then you didn't even do the diesel yet.
No. And South Africa, we tend to build tracks on really flat terrain. We've had a few on hilly areas. I mean, we got Teza and Bethlehem and so on, or the outlying exceptions. Maritzburg, to an extent as well, built on a slope.
It's like the whole of Maritzburg is off camber.
Yeah.
The whole track.
Yeah, so I enjoy, you know, tracks like that. I mean, Maritzburg, I think, is the only club in South Africa that's older than Bloem.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think we second or third somewhere on the list. So, yeah, you know, I enjoy the older tracks, and, you know, just sometimes racing where my dad used to race, or some of the greats South Africa used to race. Some of these newer tracks that are popping up, you know, great for weekend racing or weekend riders and so on. But I think the old school big tracks that used to get built.
Yeah,
well,
definitely.
On that topic, you guys have changed quite a bit on the track, like you said. So the start, for one, is completely different.
Tyson, please give some advice for this weekend.
Especially for this young rider here next to me.
12 years with no racing.
If you guys don't release this before tomorrow, I'll tell you every
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
I got to give my guys the advantage. If you're going to start, I'd recommend going all the way in the inside, the first 3 gates.
It's interesting.
You don't tend to get boxed off either. Most of the whole shots will come from there. Even if you get a bad start, before you start turning, the guys tend to go straight. So you can still hug, and still come in under a very good position. The middle, I find, is sometimes too far. You're so jump dependent, and everything sort of has to go right.
Yes.
So I give the first few gates in the inside the better option.
Okay.
Well, there you go.
And the
tip of the day.
Yeah. And on the little switchbacks, on all these tight 180s.
Oh, yeah.
Tight hug.
Yeah, I actually find that's a place where you can almost relax a little bit, because you're not, if the way it was, I think no one's really going to pass you there. All right, so it's a time to just catch your breath, you know, reset, and when you get back into the open stuff again, that you sort of got a bit of breath again and a bit of extra stamina to get going again. But with some of the obstacles, the inside bumps and so on that we've added, we might see some extra passing lines there, hopefully. But as far as the rest of the track, this track's main characteristic, if you want to be good here, is momentum. You have to maintain momentum and make sure you always, in the grunt of the power of the bike. because if you lose momentum, yeah, you bugger up one corner, and the next straight on the back area tends to be long. So you lose that corner, you lose that straight, and probably the next corner. So your recovery time here is really long, where shorter tracks you can sort of recover quickly because you're braking hard for the next corner and going again.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to maintain your momentum and sort of let go of the brakes. You know, be brave and let go of the brakes. Yeah, yeah. So a lot like how everyone's getting coached these days. You know, momentum, open up the corners, roll properly through the corners. You know, try to stay off the clutch and the brakes, and it tends to work out well over here.
Okay, thank you, dude.
That's wonderful. This was really refreshing, Tyson. Thank you.
Yeah, this is amazing.
Now, thanks for having me on. I've been hearing about Ziggy's been telling me for the last
3 years,
about his idea. Yeah, and
Ziggy's pulled the procrastination gone. It's now gone.
Well, it's done
I've been waiting. I've been waiting for my invite and waiting. So I'm glad to finally be on the show.
Thanks, man.
It was very cool to have you on, yeah.
Thank you, man. It's been a pleasure chatting with you guys. Thank you very much.
Tyson.
Yeah. Cool, man.
All right, guys. Thank you very much, and catch you on episode 4.